All right, we're live right now.
Hey,
All right, so basically, whenever I do a live stream, it's basically we can just talk about whatever we want. I was going to talk about music because that's what we're both into, but we can talk about whatever we want, like space aliens, robots, the Middle Ages, Israel, whatever we want to talk about.
I love robots. I'm big into sci-fi.
Cool. See what I can ask you. See what I can talk to you about. At the end of Dreams of Ascaton, the song off the last song on what's that album called? Crystal Logic. Yeah. It hit you. I hear this phrase. It's like it's unintelligible. What are they saying at the end of that?
It's 1983. I can remember. You said transit glory. It's Latin for and so glory of the world.
Say that again, because I barely understood that.
It's Latin for and so the glory of the world. It's I think they say it's transit glory of the world.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Yeah, it sounds familiar. And then the screaming starts after that.
Yeah, that's just a my thing.
Say that again.
I think it's a backward.
A backup scream?
No, backwards.
Oh, a backward scream.
Yeah.
Cool. I got one here, which I'm pretty sure is me. What else can I ask you? So, this whole internet thing I'm assuming it's kind of new to you because you came about in a time where the internet wasn't as prevalent, if it was even invented yet. How much time do you actually spend on social media?
A lot more than you. It's pretty cool. We get to act like we're all Star Trek show now. Beat me up, Scotty. That's kind of feel like that right now.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for that teleporter.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm gonna say something. I forgot what I was gonna ask. One thing I like about you is that I don't know if you do this personally or whether you have an assistant do this, but your YouTube channel. Well, you actually have a YouTube channel for Manilla Road, and you actually took down all the other Manilla Road music and just basically consolidate all the Manilla Road music into one channel. So, if you type in Metallica or Iron Maiden or Black Sabbath into YouTube, their music's gonna be scattered all over all these different channels. There's gonna be people who are uploading their music specifically to get attention to their own personal music, but they know they'll get more attention if they upload Metallica or something. So I'm just saying that I like how you actually have this personal touch to your YouTube channel. Or to guess.
That's actually when I don't even have it up there. I do tend to work. I've got time. That's not very often. But whenever I'm not a new project or touring. I do music, then I try and spend time on stuff, take care of the YouTube channel, and it's one of the things my fingers in a lot of the other stuff. Much of it management, tour management. Don't really have to do it.
Huh, all right. Do you make more music, or do you make more money from selling CDs or like merchandise, like T-shirts and sweaters and stuff?
Oh, I'd say on the percentage basis, more margin.
Yeah, I couldn't understand a word of that. Can you repeat that, please?
I was just saying. Merchandise probably profit percentage.
All right.
Sorry, it's pretty hard because everything I hear my voice at me. And it's really just crap.
Yeah, I understand. I'm trying to see if I can do something about that. I don't know, you do it on your phones. I really don't know what it's gonna look like on your end.
Oh, I can't see it.
Yeah. Huh. I guess we're gonna go on like this. Let's see. What can I think about talking to you about?
Ray Harryhausen.
Ray Harryhausen?
Yeah.
Who's that?
He's the guy who did all sorts of like stop I think 50s, 60s. Did the movie did the cinema.
Huh.
I love
Oh,
stuff.
no, you can swear. It's fine.
I swear.
I mean, dude, this is the internet. We're on the Wild West. It's not like we're on some type of like daytime talk show where like kids are gonna be watching.
I'm not gonna get bleeped.
No, you're not gonna get bleeped.
Darn, I always wanted to be.
Sorry, man. This is a new age. I think bleeps are going away. Yeah, I've seen some stop animation shows and movies, and to me, they're not really worth like the trouble. That's just my personal opinion. Like, I know there's a lot of hard work that goes into making stop animations, but like the outcome versus the work, ratio. Me personally, it's not really worth it. It's not something that I would personally want to do.
Oh, probably me either. Moving things just an end.
Yeah.
Snapping a shot. No, I wouldn't be doing it either, but
yeah, there's this new movie came out called Kubo and the Second String, or the Two String, or something like that. And it's also stop animation. And I heard that they filmed it over like 5-year span. I mean, can you imagine like filming just one movie over 5 years and just hoping that it comes out all right, hoping that you make enough money to warrant spending 5 years on it?
Yeah. Well, what that's like. We've spent up to working on
Oh, what album was that? The 3-year album?
Well, we definitely spent almost 3 years working on it. Blessed Curse took even finished. So several other we've spent quite a while on getting it recorded. Back in those days, the budget, how much money to use on. Yeah, because so we don't have to worry about whenever we go. have ideas. Not necessarily good ones, but
let's see what else I was gonna say. Do you have any endorsements, like a guitar or like pick or amp endorsements?
sure don't.
All right.
I haven't done it. The rest of the stuff, for instance.
So yeah, I didn't hear about your other project. I think it's called Hell Well. I didn't hear about it until you brought it up. Yeah, what kind of project is that?
Sort of really heavy. So actually, based a lot of gothic, classic stuff, and no happy, and it's pretty aggressive. I tend to more metal type on it, but it's really aggressive. Sort of, our first Beyond Sin, and it's kind of roller for first 17 called NAIMMMLS, and it's it's pretty cool project. Proud of it.
Cool. What else can I say? Do you have a favorite album that you worked on?
Gates of Fire was a great company. I'd say it was a lot of fun to work on. I tell you what, I really like usually focus on what's going on, sure, and sort of like where I'm at, the mixing and points of three different projects. The new project I did, the new Manilla mixing on that. So I've always got my hands working on a lot of projects. It's been a lot of work, but we're finalized. So I'm really good about it to accomplish what we did. You know, like 3 for the material. It's feeling me right now. Of course, all the tours have been going really well, and this coming year in 2018 is our 40th anniversary, and we're going to do a lot of tours this year. We're planning to keep it true festival with Kira Thungle, and hey, I finally can you still hear me?
I can hear you, but I realize I don't know what's going on, but whenever you talk, it's coming out of your speaker and it's coming out of or it's going through your mic and it's coming out of my mic as well. So like,
but it's not now. Now it is too.
Yeah, because I whenever you were talking, when you started talking, I muted it, so that's why it stopped echoing. So I guess I don't know why it's doing that, but whenever you're talking, I'll just mute it.
Oh, okay, sounds good. Well, like I was saying, we've got the 40th anniversary of the inception of Manilla Road coming up here right now in the new year, basically. And we're going to be doing a lot of touring this year. We've got pretty big leg of touring that we're starting off with the Keep It True Festival in Germany with Kira Thungal. And then we're touring all through Europe, Scandinavia. I think we're going to the UK, down to the Mediterranean again and stuff. I think all of the shows are just starting to be announced now at this point. And also know that we're going to be doing a USA tour in like September, October, I believe. I think we're going to be in Europe through all of May, and so it's going to be an exciting year for us. We're doing a show with Randy Fox here in Wichita, Kansas on Friday the 13th, January the 13th. It's a small, really sort of personal type of place. You know, it doesn't hold much more than about 200 people, but we decided it's first show that our new bass player Phil Ross was going to done with us live, so we thought we'd just do a sort of a personal coming out show for him and celebrate the 30th anniversary of our Mystification album with Randy Fox. And so we're just having fun with everything right now. I mean, we've got a lot of anniversaries happening sort of all at the same time, and we're having fun playing music. It's cool having Randy come back and, you know, do some jamming with us, work with me on the Hellwell project, and play some stuff with us live. He's going to be in Germany with us, playing half of the show, and then our normal drummer Noity, who's from Germany, will play the other half of the show. And then we're going to continue on touring from that point for a little over a month, I believe, and in Europe with Noity. And then we'll probably take a little bit of time off, and I think we've got some other stuff that's going to be happening maybe in June and July, but then we've got our big tour in the USA in like September, October, I believe. And I don't think any of the dates have really been announced on a lot of that yet, but most of that's just all, you know, in the network right now, and I'm sure they'll be announcing all those dates pretty soon. And I'm looking forward to it. I love touring. I really like playing in the studio and, you know, creating the music, but there's just an exhilaration you get from playing live, that relating to all the fans and getting all the love and respect that we do from people all over the world. It's an amazing experience, and I really like doing it. It's just a lot of fun. Yeah.
When you talk about the studio, do you have your own personal studio that you go to, or do you like rent out hours in someone else's studio?
No, I have my own studio in my basement actually, and we spent a lot of money building it. But and it's a digital studio. It's not an analog studio. Some people have asked me that before, but it's not just a regular PC studio. You know, it's actually got some pretty high dollar gear in it, and we've been recording down there since about 2001, I think 2000, 2001, somewhere in that period of time, and it's worked out really good for us, because I remember the days of spending as much as, you know, $10,000-$20,000 on producing an album before, and you know, just spending so much money on the studio that you really don't make a whole lot of money off of the album sales, even though you sell quite a few of them. And nowadays it's a lot better, because we don't have to worry about punching the clock and watching how much money we spend in the studio, because it's just our time that we're spending in there. And of course, it costs money to keep it, you know, to upkeep the studio, have good mics, and the technology is always changing. You always have to worry about things like that too. But it's really good having the studio, because it gives me the opportunity, especially here in my own home, because then, you know, if I just wake up and think of something, oh wow, great great riff. I don't want to forget this. I can actually run down to the studio and lay it down real quick, and that way I can listen to it later and say, "Oh wow, why did I lay that down? That really sucks."
Do you have internet connection to the computer in your studio?
No, I do not. No, it's sort of a dinosaur system. It doesn't even have USB technology. It's one of the earlier digital systems, actually, but um, it works really good for what we're doing, and it has sort of an analog sound to it, and I like that. It's not as just crispy, totally crispy clear as you get with like a Pro Tools system or whatever. Um, I'm still pretty I'm still pretty old school minded for the most part. We've tried lots of fancy production techniques in the past, but to tell you the truth, a good SM57 Shure microphone and a Marshall amplifier speaker, that seems to do the trick most every time. And yep, Ray Harryhausen, he was cool. He obviously had an awful lot of patience to be able to do all that stop action stuff that he did.
Have you seen Rogue One yet?
No, I haven't. But my other engineer in my studio, Derek Brubaker, we call him Doctor Doom. He just went and saw it last night, and with one of our graphics artists, and they both said it was incredibly cool. So he said he liked it. He recommended it highly. So I'm gonna have to go take some time, go to the IMAX and watch that thing. I don't get out to see movies that often, but I sure do catch them a lot. When they finally make it to video or Netflix, stuff like that. I like things like Penny Dreadful. I just watched that on Netflix not too long back. I thought that was pretty inventive the way they tied all of the old classic gothic horror stories together into sort of one thing. And plus, it was pretty bloody. I like that. It had good acting in it.
Yeah, I saw Rogue One. It was okay. It's a good movie to see in the IMAX because it looks really nice.
Yeah, IMAX is the way to go if you're seeing new stuff, especially with the plethora of CGI effects that are out there. Those look a lot better at IMAX than they do just on a regular screen. But yeah, the technology is so rampantly out there compared to what it was when I was young and going to movies in the theaters all the time. I remember when the first Star Wars came out, and we were just in awe with how we had never seen anything like that as far as sci-fi type stuff before. I mean, we had 2001 and a few other things that sort of came close, but Star Wars just really outdid it for everything. And um, nowadays, it's way beyond it's way beyond cool now. It's almost ridiculous. All the things they can do with CGI, it's like it's limitless now. And but I must admit, there's still an awful lot of things about regular film technology. I mean, like the old gore movies were. I thought they were a lot better because you don't have the fake CGI blood and injuries and stuff like that. You've actually, tried to make it look somewhat real, at least, through artificial effects that are physical effects. And I personally appreciate that more because there's like a huge, artistic type talent that goes into that. And I don't think there's quite as much artistic talent going into the computer animation as there is, uh, you know, real effects. or real-time effects, I guess I should say, physical effects. I sort of feel the same way about artwork. I think airbrush is really cool, but I love oil on canvas as a medium for artwork. I love classical or classic structured art pieces, and that's why I've been using Paolo Gerardi a lot lately from Italy for some of our projects, because he does all of his work on canvas with oil paints, and he doesn't use airbrush, and he doesn't use any type of photoshopping, no computer enhancements whatsoever. And that's what I consider real art. And computer enhanced stuff looks really cool, but I think once you have a computer do all the shading for you or the shadows and stuff like that, it's not as personally touched as it has been with an artist that actually did all of that, with his own ingenuity and his own talent. Sort of like trigger drums. I don't like trigger drums that much. I guess they have their place in electronic type sounding music, but for the most part, I want to hear a real drummer playing a real drum set.
Yeah, I personally don't have access to a drummer, so I usually just use MIDI drums. And recently, I got a program called Easy Drummer 2, and like the difference is like night and day. The drums sound so much better because I believe those are recorded, actual live drums are recorded, and then they're just like samples opposed to just whatever they did with the product I was previously using.
Yeah, I hear that. The old drum machines that we used to use for writing music and stuff like that were terribly shabby sounding, very fake sounding. But no, we always we don't use triggers. We don't use drum samples. We do everything in real time when we're doing our stuff. And it's sort of a goal of ours to just be real musicians and not spend so much time doing digital Pro Tools technology stuff. We don't cut and paste. We don't we don't come up with, well, I sang the chorus really good this one time, so we'll copy that and paste it all throughout every chorus in the song. We don't do that shit at all. We keep it real, and every once in a while, a guitar solo will be overdubbed or whatever, but that's pretty typical even for the old days. But like the guitar tracks, bass tracks, most generally, it's from start to finish. You get what you got pretty much. We play it all the way from start to finish without doing any extra seamless cutting and pasting to fix any little tiny mistake that we made or whatever. I know a lot of projects nowadays, you play the riff one time and then it's the same, you just copy it and paste it all over the place. And I just don't consider that true music. I'm more in favor of bands, still playing their parts and having it sound like what the band is sounding like, instead of a computer's interpretation of what the band sounds like, I guess.
Whenever you go on tour in like Europe, well, do you ever get a chance to go sightseeing, or is it just just all business?
Yeah, at times we get to go sightseeing. We've seen tons of stuff. I think I've climbed the hill at the Acropolis in Athens 3 or 4 times now. I like that place. It's pretty cool. We've seen a lot of cool stuff. I mean, the stuff I would have never seen unless I was doing this. been all over Europe. We've been to South America. We've been all, a lot of places in Canada and all over the United States. And so, we've been to a couple of places in the Middle East. We've been, to Malta. We've been, Cyprus. We've been to cool places, and these are all probably things I would have never seen. Malta was so cool, man. Malta's like being in a James Bond movie, one of the old ones, one of the old Sean Connery James Bond movies. All the buildings are made out of like limestone, and it looks, the streets are narrow, and they've only got little cars, and it's cool, man. And everything's by the sea, there's always a sea view drive that you're on, and it's great. I loved Malta, man. It's probably where I'm going to retire. Everything's pretty cheap there too. And I don't even think they have a major technology or export or anything there. I think it's just a really cool tourist attraction. It's just used to be a port for the Knights Hospitallers and Knights Templars way back in the day. It's got like 300 perfect weather days every year. There's only like 60 some days out of the year that there's anything close to bad weather, and it's almost always just really nice, in the mid to high 70s, low 80s or whatever. And so it's like the perfect place, and they like doom metal a lot there too, so that's cool with me. But yeah, we get to do a lot of sightseeing. We've seen some stuff that's just radically cool, ancient castles, and we tend to do that a lot we find a castle anywhere. It's like, oh, I've got to take time to go check out the castle if we can. And but there's an awful lot of times too that we're having to just sort of look at the castle on the hill as we drive by, going, yeah, it'd be cool to go there, but yeah, we got a show to do. So we're on the run an awful lot, and a lot of times it sort of sucks because we'll finish a show and we really like hanging out and just talking to people afterwards and being with our friends and fans and stuff. But an awful lot of times you're in such a hurry to make it to the next airplane to get you to the next show or whatever that you don't have time to hang out and party as much anymore. But it's all worth it because it's the time I actually spend on stage that means the most to me about touring. It's not the sightseeing, which it's a bonus, I mean, it's great, but more than anything, it's just being with and playing music for all the people that really love our music, and that's what makes it all worthwhile for me and keeps us, doing what we do.
You say you went to parts of the Middle East. Which part did you go to?
Well, we were in Cyprus. I've been to Istanbul and stuff like that, but we were actually supposed to play in Dubai one time, but the promoter couldn't quite get it together, and we didn't go. And it's probably a good thing anyway. I hear they've got some sort of blasphemy law now. I think Vader, the band Vader, just had to cancel all of their tour dates that they were going to do over there because they're actually, putting people in jail for being blasphemous, I guess. And so obviously, if you're in a metal band, most metal bands, in one way or another, sing about, weird occult type stuff. And if you're saying anything like that, that's blasphemous. So pretty much, I think our music's illegal in in Saudi Arabia now or something like that. I don't know, but no, we haven't been there for a while. We did a festival in Cyprus that was really cool, and that was an interesting place too because half of Cyprus is Turkish and the other half is Cypriots, which is sort of Greek, but not really. And but it's yeah, and Istanbul was sort of interesting too, but we're a lot more popular in the mainland of Europe and Scandinavia and the Benelux and the UK, stuff like that. So we tend to concentrate more in the areas, say, like between Slovenia all the way to Spain and Portugal, and then from Greece all the way up to the Nordlands of Norway and Finland and Sweden, and of course we had everything in between France and Belgium and Denmark and Germany. Of course, things are always fun in Germany because they just really love metal there. And there seems to be a really good metal thing going on pretty much all over Europe, and it seems to be getting a lot better here in the States too, in a lot of places. I know it was really huge for a while, way back when, and then it died down a little bit. But now it seems to be having a bit of a resurgence right now, and I'm glad to see that. It means I might have a job here for another couple of years.
How do you feel about how do you feel about the newer metal bands coming out, like the like stuff like new metal, like technical death metal? What else kind of thing? Oh, Degent, that kind of stuff.
Well, you know, I'm probably not really super well versed on a lot of new bands. I mean, I've heard some. I'm not sure if you're talking about bands like Cradle of Filth or what, but I'm not really into Cradle of Filth. I'm not. There's an awful lot of new age metal bands that I don't really relate to that well. I'm more of a classic and epic metal type of guy, and I tend to head towards the old Black Sabbath, Deep Purple sound more than I do the new, I don't know, whatever you call it, grunge metal, math metal type style of stuff. Uh, so I'm not real familiar with a lot of those bands. There's some that I really like though, like Protest Hero is pretty cool. I think they're considered a math metal band. We've just got way too many genre monikers nowadays. It's hard to tell who plays what anymore because there's so many genres. And I remember when it wasn't even heavy metal; it was just hard rock, or acid rock. But I'm probably not really super familiar. When it comes to death metal, I'm sort of a fan of Fenris and Dark Throne and some other death metal type bands, but most of them are more your classic style of death metal approach, I would think. And uh, I'm not a huge fan of all death metal vocal styles, and I think that's probably the problem I have the most with new metal or new age metal is that there seems to be just an awful lot of screaming that's non-understandable, and a lot of vocalists that just sort of sound the same. Like, not trying to put anybody down, but Lamb of God, comes to mind where I just don't. It just doesn't really trigger anything in me that makes me go, "Oh yeah, that's really fucking cool." Um, I guess I'm just still more of the type of guy that I hear a really good screaming Judas Priest riff, and I'm all into it. But I like a little bit of melody with my music, and I like melodic vocals. I do like death metal vocals if they're done well, but instead of just grunting stuff, I think it's a lot cooler if you have that sort of death metal approach with melody, with singing actually going on within it. And um, So yeah, I'm really into that stuff. Uh, I I love I love doom metal. You know, there's an awful lot of cool new doom metal bands that are out there nowadays. A band called Mist out of Slovenia, I believe, and there's a lot of other cool doom metal bands out there. Even some that have been sort of reviving out of the U.S. that are, almost sounding like Sabbath bands, like Orchid and stuff like that. And it seems like there's a bit of a resurgence of, how should I say it, the older school of the early days of metal, like space rock, what they call stoner metal and stuff like that. Man, a lot of that really reminds me of just, stuff that was coming out in the 60s and 70s and stuff that I grew up with and was basically a part of in, back in those days. And obviously, some things just sort of make their cycle and come back around. They always say that, the trends sort of cycle around. And I think I've seen really hard and heavy music make that trend kill several times now. So it's right now I'm just glad that metal music's still something that's a viable product that people love to listen to, whether it's new age metal or old school metal, whatever genre you want to call it. I just think it's cool that people are still into heavy stuff and interested in the strange and exciting sounds that are what metal music is.
Have you ever been on tour with Iron Maiden?
No, would love to, but no, probably the two biggest acts that I've never shared the stage with that I'd really like to be Judas Priest or Iron Maiden. But I have had the pleasure of playing on the same stage with a lot of other bands that are really cool that I never thought I'd be on stage with, like Angel Witch, Europe, Saxon, Accept, ZZ Top, Ted Nugent, Crocus. The list just really goes on at this point. It's really cool. Uh, I've got to meet and hang out with some of my lifelong idols in music. Just this last year, we were with Udo Dirk Schneider from Accept, or used to be with Accept, is now with UDO and this other band, Dirk Schneider. And, um, you know, some years back, I did lunch with Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top, and who I actually knew from 1986, worked with them on their Dequeo tour when I was working in theatrical services and stuff like that. I was a musician at the same time, but back in those days, you had to. I wasn't making enough money off of music to not have a regular job. So for a long time, I was a technician and a stagehand, basically, with the stagehands union here in Wichita. And but yeah, I got to do breakfast with almost all the guys in the Accept band. Hung out with Phil Anselmo and the guys in Down. Uh, it's like I said, the list goes on, and it's really cool to be able to hobnob with those guys and share stories about our experiences and hear what they have to say about us and what we have to say about them. And it's not something that I maybe expected would happen in my life. And it's always really strange too when you end up with, like, the two times we played with Angel Witch, they actually opened up for us, which I thought was totally ass backwards because I've idolized that band from way back when, and I was like, man, it seems like we should be opening up for them, but you know, it really doesn't matter to me what order we ever play in. I just love playing, and it's, uh, it's been pretty good so far. It's taken a lot of time to get to where we are, but we're not finished yet. Probably won't be for several years until our fans say that, hey, yeah, it sounds like shit, you need to stop, or until I just physically can't do it or I'm dead, you know. So the road goes on at this point, and so chain up your daughters, fasten your seatbelts, watch out, we're coming at you.
Just give me a second. I'm thinking of a question to ask you.
No, that's fine, man.
Do you have like a favorite brand of guitar to play?
Well, I'm real fond of my BC Rich Warlock. I've got a handmade Warlock that Bernie Rico made himself, and it's probably my favorite, but it's worth an awful lot of money, and we've almost lost it 3 different times, a couple of times on tour. One time it got stolen from my house, and so it's one of those things where we don't really like to take it on tour, especially when it's going on an airplane. When we're touring in the United States, then I usually take it with me because it's, you know, basically in the tour bus with us all the time. So don't have to worry about the airlines mistreating it or losing it. Most of the time when I'm touring in Europe, I'm playing my other guitars, which I use Schecters most of the time now. BC Rich doesn't make their guitars the same way they used to, and of course Bernie's dead now, so I guess they probably never will. Most of their stuff I think is machine made in Japan or something like that now, and it just doesn't feel the same. It doesn't sound the same, and uh, but Schecter, I really like the feel of their guitars. I love the sound of them. They play really nice. They use really great, you know, really great wood in the making of their guitars, and they're high caliber stuff. And so that's pretty much what I've been sticking with for the electrics here lately. If you're talking about acoustic stuff, I've got a 6 string Taylor that I really like for a 6 string. For my 12 string stuff, though, I have an old Alvarez 12 string. It's just really luscious. I've never heard a 12 string that has a crystalline sound like that one does. So I use it a lot to, when I'm sitting in my room or whatever, just, you know, trying to make up stuff or, you know, come up with new ideas. I sort of sit around and plunk around on the Alvarez 12 string an awful lot. And that's primarily the guitars that I use nowadays. I've been through a lot through the years. You know, I played Ibanez for a while. Uh, I've had others. Had a Les Paul that I played for a little bit back in the day, and I've tried flying V's, but I didn't really like the way they felt. You know, for the positioning of my arm and stuff. And um, there's, you know, some certain quirks that I like about guitars that I just always have to pay attention to when I'm buying a new guitar. One is I really like, I don't like thick necks. I like thin, you know, narrow necks a lot better than I do thick ones or wide ones. I don't like scalped necks. I like regular traditional necks. I prefer an ebony fretboard, but rosewood's okay too for the most part. But I prefer an ebony fretboard, and pretty much into the old school DiMarzio high distortion, high sustain sounding pickups And the Schecters that they use, the pickups that the Schecters use in their Hellraiser guitars and stuff are really close to sounding like those old DiMarzios. So probably another reason why I'm really into the Schecters nowadays. But they have the narrow necks, and the one thing that's just always, a must-have in guitars, electric guitars for me, is it has to be a 24 fret guitar. It can't be a standard 22. It's got to have that full extra octave on there, because I actually use that stuff in guitar solos and stuff, and can't do without those extra 2 frets. I'm telling you right now. And so it becomes really important that the cutaway at the very top of the fretboard is deep enough that I can actually get my fingers up in those positions to play those extra 2 frets. So a lot of things I look for in a guitar, and it seems like I've found all the right components with the Schecter Hellraiser that I use most of the time on tour. I'm really happy with it. Sounds a lot like the BC Rich too. I can get it to sound a lot like the Rich, but the Rich has just a multitude of different sounds that you can get out of it. It's an amazing guitar. It's got all sorts of in and out of phase selections for the pickups and everything that I don't have on the Schecters. And it's got the old Kaler tremolo bar system, which I don't like Floyd Rose at all. I love Kalers, but I've actually found that I still prefer to play a guitar that doesn't have a floating bridge on it. They stay in tune a lot better, and if you ever break a string live, all your other strings don't go out of tune. If you're playing on a floating bridge, like a tremolo system, as soon as you break a string, it goes like a quarter step out of tune. Every string does, and because the tension changed on it. But on a regular standard guitar without a floating bridge, with just a regular solid bridge, if you break a string, most usually all the other strings are still where they're supposed to be. And if you know how to, at least transpose some parts real quick and play without whatever string you broke, then you can still pull it off pretty easily. It's almost impossible to do with a floating bridge, so you're just sort of shit out of luck and everything sound like crap. Which you don't want everything to sound like crap when you're on tour. You want it to sound really nice and pretty and all, squishy and stuff.
Yeah, the reason why I specifically asked you about if you want to tour with Iron Maiden, because you guys are basically like like an American Iron Maiden.
Yeah, sort of. Not as many guitar players, that's for sure, though. I think they've got 3 now. Dave Murray, Adrian Smith, and the other guy that I never can remember the name of because I'm old school Maiden. And
I think his name is Janik.
what's that?
I think his name is Janik. I believe it's Janik Gears, but I'm not sure.
He's a good guitar player. I've seen videos of him and everything. It's been a long time since I've seen Maiden live. We played with an awful lot of people at these big festivals that we've been doing over the last few years, but we haven't been on one with Maiden yet, and we haven't been on one with Judas Priest either. So I've still got a few names on my bucket list that I've got to get in there. And to tell you the truth, that's an honor that you would put us in the same caliber as Maiden, because I really respect them a lot for a lot of the stuff they've done. And I do agree with you to a degree that they maybe not style wise, but as far as the lyric and theme choices of both bands, they seem to be sometimes somewhat similar. And so, yeah, I could definitely put us in a bit of the same realm as Maiden as far as approach concept wise. And I love what they do. They're a great band, always have been. Uh, I like Bruce and I liked Paul too. I like both of the singers for the band. I really wasn't in Blaze Bailey that much, but I didn't think he really fit the Iron Maiden persona very much. But I'm not saying he's a bad singer. I'm just saying he didn't seem to jive with Iron Maiden the way that I thought he should have. But Bruce is cool. I mean, I think the first time I saw Maiden was on the Number of the Beast tour. So I never actually saw Maiden live with Paul Di'Anno, which I really would have liked to. I've seen some of the video clips, and it looks like it was really cool when those guys were young, and that stuff was really pretty new sounding. I mean, I'm not really sure we called it the new wave of British heavy metal over here in the States at that point, but Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, all the other bands that were popping up from over there were definitely a big influence on us. Uh, but we were already being influenced by outside cultural influences as far as music goes. I mean, I was highly influenced by Rush and their Canadian band, and Hawkwind. In the early days, well, they're from the UK. We had an awful lot of British bands that were, really important to the building of the style of what we call heavy metal now. Bands like Deep Purple, Uriah Heep, Pink Floyd, Hawkwind, Led Zeppelin, and of course most of these bands are British bands. Now there's a lot of other European bands that I considered really important too. I mean, Scorpions and Accept, hugely important as far as I'm concerned, from Germany. There were some other, influences that I had from other countries, like I was pretty much into Heavy Load, which a lot of people don't even know who Heavy Load is, but over in Europe, every metalhead knows who Heavy Load is, and it's like most people here in America, they have no clue who Hawkwind is, but Hawkwind over in Europe is really well known as one of the first really out there bands that tried doing psychedelic stuff that was really different and a new horizon for the music front back then. And so there is a lot of difference between the culture of music in Europe and the culture of music in America. And it's the same way down in South America too. There's a little bit different understanding, a little bit different approach to the philosophy of what metal is about and what they like and what it all means to them. But the one thing that's totally cool is that it communicates to all of us, and it communicates the same thing pretty much to all of us, which is the unification of the brotherhood of metal. Yes. No, I think it's cool that it seems to be the one unified communication theme that the world has is music, and even without words, it still communicates to everybody. And so I think music is probably the closest thing we have to real magic in life. So there. Take that.
Isn't Hawkwind what's that bassist name? Singer using Motorhead?
Listen till it.
Wasn't that his old band?
Yeah, Lemmy Kilmister. Yeah, that was the band that Lemmy was first in, was Hawkwind, or at least where he first started, making a name for himself in a sense. I think he used to roadie for Jimi Hendrix too. So yeah, I actually met Lemmy and did an interview with him way back when. He was a really cool dude, really sort of crazy, loved to drink that Jack Black, and he was fun to hang out with. A I'll never forget that. And I think he was extremely crucial to the hard rock, heavy metal, evolution of music. And you know, I'll definitely miss him because he seemed to be just a huge staple in the hard rock, punk, heavy metal empire. And yeah, he'll be missed. But, sure did put out an awful lot of cool music and wrote music for other people too. I mean, I remember him saying that the song that he wrote for Ozzy Osbourne, I think it was "Mama, Mama, I'm Coming Home" or whatever it is. Um, he said he made more money off of that than he did almost all of the stuff he ever did with Motorhead. So it's funny, but I have an awful lot of respect for him, and it's unfortunate that he's not with us anymore.
What's the craziest thing that's happened to you on stage?
Well, I'm not sure it's the craziest thing, but well, let's see. We were doing a festival in Cyprus, and there were people climbing up the light trestles with fireworks, like flares and sparklers and stuff, and all this stuff was raining down on us from up in the lights, and yeah, that was pretty crazy. Um, I think usually what gets me the most is there's a lot of places in Europe that the crowd just starts going nuts during certain songs, and they all think they have to run up on the stage and stage dive. And what's funny is I think we were playing in Thessaloniki, Greece, this last year, and I can't remember. I think the song was Crystallogic, and the people were getting so rampant and crazy they ran up on stage doing their stage diving thing, and it never fails. Somebody always, steps on some of my foot pedals and turns something on or off or unplugs something. And well, this time it was a little more drastic. They got their feet tangled up in the cables and actually pulled down and knocked down my whole stack of amps. And it was funny, but I heard this huge crash behind me. I looked, and there's the whole stack of amps just laying on the stage and tumbling across the stage. And I'm just motioning to Noity and the other guys, hey, keep it going, keep it going. And, luckily the crew put it together really quick, and they got the rig back up and running for me, and we finished the song. Show always has to go on, but that's some of the crazy stuff that happens. We were doing a show in Belgium not too long ago where, what was it, the Ages of Metal Festival, I think, where at the very end of the show is like the whole first 3 or 4 rows of the audience ended up on stage with us. It was the funniest thing to see on video because you couldn't tell where the band was. You heard the band, but all you saw was a bunch of metalheads up there headbanging. It was funny. Couldn't even see the drum set anymore. And so those are sort of some crazy things that happened to us live. And but it's fun. It's fun. I love doing that stuff. It's incredible getting out there and playing live shows. It's just so much fun. So much fun.
So Trump's our new president. How do you feel about that?
Oh, you want to talk politics? To tell you the truth, I usually try and not talk politics. Uh, I found a long time ago that it's best not to talk to people about politics or religion because they take those things too personally. Can you still see me? Oh, I got dark, didn't I?
Yeah, you're in the darkness, but I can still see you.
I wanted to go where I could smoke a cigarette. To tell you the truth, I think it's sort of sad that it feels to me like let's see if it feels to me like we just didn't have the right choices in front of us. It seems like all the really smart people, they don't want to run for president. So we always end up with people we don't want for president running for president. I just hope for the best. I don't think one man or one woman can be the ruination of the United States of America, so I'm not really too worried about it. I don't think the American public or the majority of the people that are in government would even let one man or one woman, start a war needlessly or anything. I think we're still better people than that. But some of the rhetoric you see from Trump, especially during the campaign, yeah, you'd sort of wonder. But I think basically what we're seeing is America saying, "Hey, we want to change," and they didn't want the old to stay the way it was, and so that's why Hillary didn't end up in there. And I guess everybody thought, well, lesser of two evils or something. I don't know. I'm not. I actually didn't vote this time because I didn't want to give either one of them my vote. And, at that point, my vote as a popular vote doesn't make any difference anyway. I mean, Hillary won the popular vote, but she still didn't win because she didn't win the electoral vote. And I don't cast an electoral vote, so really doesn't matter if I vote or not. I usually do vote, but this time I didn't really feel like I had any candidate that was out there that represented my opinions, so I didn't vote for anyone.
Was there any show or gig that you wish you could redo?
Yeah, there's probably I'm sure there's at least one solo in every show that I wish I could go back and, oh man, I wish I would have played that one right. It used to be in the old days, the guitar solo in Necropolis. After every show, I'd be, man, I wish I could go back and do that right for a change. But we played that song so much now, I pretty much play the solo the same every time. So let's see. There's been a couple of shows that my voice has been really crapped out because of my laryngitis. That I wish I would have had, better vocals. Usually it's the tail end of a really long tour, and but that's why I have Brian there to sing as well, because if it was just me singing all the time by myself, yeah, we wouldn't be able to tour near as much as we do. So, I'd say the first show we did in Europe, at the Bang Your Head Festival in Ballingen, Germany, that's probably the one show that I wish I would have been able to do over again, because that was the first time we were in front of a really big audience in Europe. And I didn't feel like we played up to snuff at all. I felt like it was a pretty shitty performance. But I got to get back on that one because we just played the Bang Your Head again this last year, and we did great. So it's sort of like I went back and slayed it after all on the same stage. So it's all cool.
Do you play any other instruments like bass or I don't know, kazoo?
Yeah, I play kazoo and skin flute. No, I do play other instruments. My musical training started on piano when I was like age 4 or 5, and I was trained at vocals way back when too, and choir and everything. I actually had a vocal instructor. I had a piano teacher. I played trumpet for a while. I played percussion a lot. The first instrument I played in a rock band was drums. Um, I played percussion in the orchestras here in Wichita. So I was a fairly educated musician. I can play bass, but once I once I figured out that guitar was something I was really interested in, that was what I tended to stick with. And but piano is probably the other thing I know really, really, really well. And kazoo. I can play a djembe.
Did you ever want to go into like a different genre other than metal, or did you always want to be in a metal band?
Well, I always wanted to be in the hard rock side of things, that's for sure. Back when I started playing music, um, metal wasn't really that much of a genre at that point. Sort of happened while I was learning to play music, and um, I've always tended towards the heavier side of stuff. Even when it's spacey, I still like it to get heavy. But I have ventured in other genres because, like, my solo album, Obsidian Dreams, is entirely acoustic, and it's more folk rock in a sense than it is, heavy metal. As a matter of fact, I couldn't call it heavy metal at all. So I have, I guess my answer to that would be that I have ventured off into some other stuff, and but my primary goal is to still stick with the heavy and more metal sounding type stuff.
If you can go back in time to like the 1980s, and you can only bring one item from the present to the past to the 1980s, which item would that be?
Okay, now I can bring one item from now back to the past, or
Correct. From now back to the past, like an iPhone that we have now. You can take it back to the 1980s. Which item would you take back?
well, I guess, boy, the '80s. If you did take an iPhone back then, you'd probably end up and patent all of the technology in it. You'd be a rich motherfucker, probably. But let's see. If I had one thing that I could take, back to the '80s. Oh yeah.
Well, I guess it'd be the recording of the newest album that we just finished, because it'd be so far ahead of its time. And then I could really release it in the 80s and have something that I did now back then. I don't know. Other than that, um, hmm, I guess actually just my knowledge would be the thing that I'd want to take back to the 80s if I think about it, because you know, if I was to retain all the knowledge I have now and go back to the 80s, I'd pretty much know what was going to happen, which means I could, you know, invest in all the right things at the right times, and make all the right bets in Vegas at the right times for sporting events and stuff like that. Uh, wouldn't have to worry about money, obviously. And who knows, you could even put yourself in the right places at the right time that you could rule the world. No, I wouldn't want to rule the world. It'd be too much of a stress. It'd be a really pain in the ass, I'm sure, to rule the world. But no, it'd probably be like if I could take all of the musical knowledge that I've learned up till now and go back to the 80s and sort of start all over again. That'd be sort of cool to start my career with what I know now instead of starting. But then you'd create some sort of paradox or whatever, and it'd screw everything up, and I'd end up where I wasn't even born. So yeah, let's don't even mess with it. Let's just keep on going the way we're going. My phone says it's running out of battery here, brother.
All right, that's cool. I have one more question for you. Like way back in the stream, we were talking about like lead singers or whatever. How do you feel about what's his face? Tim Ripper Owens when he was in Judas Priest when he replaced Rob Halford.
That's actually a good question. I know a lot of people that didn't like Ripper when he came on board, but the Jugulator album to me is a really great album, and I thought he did a really great job on that album. It's a fantastic studio album. You can tell that KK and Glenn really worked on that album for a long time, writing the music for it. Unfortunately, the second album with Ripper, it felt rushed, like they maybe were doing lots of touring and they wrote the album on the road. And, you know, it came out pretty quick after the first Jugulator album, where Jugulator, they spent years getting that one written and put together. And they did the next one in like, you know, half a year or so. And I thought he was a great singer. I think he's still a great singer. I thought he fit really well for the Jugulator album. But to tell you the truth, I was really glad to see Rob come back too, because Rob Halford is part of Judas Priest, you know, and always will be for all of us, I think. But I thought Ripper did a really good job with the band. So I don't have any animosity towards him at all for getting in there and trying his best. And I thought he did a really good job, especially on the Jugulator album. And I saw some of their live videos with him too. He was screaming. He's brutal. He's got a great voice. I have a lot of respect for him.
All right, thanks. It was really cool hanging out with you. Do you have any questions for me?
I don't. I sure appreciate you doing this. And just as a closing thing, I'd like to thank you for doing the interview and the stream with me. And I'd like to thank all of our fans out there for tuning in and checking it out. And especially thank all of our fans for all their undying support throughout all the years. And whether you're a new Manilla Road fan or an old one, man, thank you very much for the support. Without your, you know, your love and respect that you guys give us on the road, and you know, purchasing our music and everything, it's what keeps us alive and keeps us doing what we do. So up the hammers and down the nails to all of you. Appreciate it very much, and I hope we see you all on the road. Thanks for doing this with me, man. Appreciate it, Nathan.
You're welcome. All right. Goodbye, everyone.